Okay, in this video what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to dual boot Windows 11 and Linux Mint. This video will assume that you have already created your Linux Mint boot USB thumb drive, or you created a boot CD/DVD. Since we are using a virtual machine, I just mounted the ISO on the virtual CD-ROM. So that's what we're going to select here in our menu. So I'm going to just do boot manager, select my DVD-ROM. If you're in your BIOS or if you're in your boot menu, what you're looking for is the USB that you burnt Linux Mint to. So I'll go ahead and get this started. This normally takes a couple seconds, so I'm going to pause the video. Okay, now that we're on our desktop, we're just going to double click on the install Linux Mint. And this is usually a click through. We're not going to have to do a whole bunch of decision making here. Just click continue. English US, click continue. Continue. Okay, so on the screen right here, we want to choose this top option because what our purpose here is we have one we have one hard drive and we want two operating systems. We're going to use Linux Mint alongside Windows Boot Manager. So we'll go ahead and click continue. This is a slider right here that you can slide this back and forth, so you can decide how much you want to give to each operating system. Linux Mint really doesn't need a lot, so we're just going to say, we'll say 40. That's fine. That leaves the bulk of it back on Windows, which is probably what most people will do, at least eventually. Essentially, a use case for this is if you are a gamer and you still need to use Windows for gaming. This still leaves the bulk of your drive available for your games. So then we'll just go ahead. Once we're satisfied with this, we'll go ahead and click install. And we're just going to click OK on that. It is important to note that before you do any of this stuff, you back up all of your data on your Windows partition, all of your folders, all your files, all your pictures, all of that stuff. Keep that backed up. It's a smart thing to do anyway on a regular basis. Even if you don't do this, keeping a backup of your important data is just that. It's important. All right, so anyway, right here, this is just our final warning saying that if we click continue, it's going to make the changes we requested. So we select our time zone. All right, and we choose a name of our computer. If you see that, it says that name already exists on the network. That's because it's the name of the ISO image itself or the installer. That will go away when you reboot, so you can ignore that warning. I'm going to pick our username and our password. Okay, and then we're just going to click continue. I'm going to choose the defaults on pretty much everything else. And I'm going to pause this video while this installs. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and hit restart now. And we're going to let this restart. I'll show you what you should see. Once this reboots, it should default to the Linux Mint menu, which it did here. But the third one down is the Windows Boot Manager. So we need to make sure we see that in there to make sure that Linux Mint detected Windows as it should. A good idea here is to go ahead and boot into Windows, which we will here just to make sure that it is working, and then we will reboot again to go back to Linux Mint. All right, let me pause the video while I log in. Okay, there was an extra step in there that I did not want to film. Basically, after I did that, I restarted, and I ended up having to reset the 4-digit PIN I used to log into Windows. Basically, you just go through the recovery steps as it presents on the screen. It was fairly harmless. Took me about 45 seconds. But as you can tell, it does go back to the desktop. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and reboot back to the menu. Okay, I did pause the video again there for a second because I'm not trying not to show any personal information to you like login names and stuff. All right, so now that we're back on the screen here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and choose Linux Mint and go back to the Linux Mint desktop. Okay, so now we're here at the login screen. We'll go ahead and put in our password. And we'll walk through the first steps of setting this up. Alright, which is this handy little screen right here. I'm going to take this check mark out. I do not want this box showing up every single time I boot the computer. However, if you ever need to go back through these steps, this is known as the welcome screen. You can find that in here. I just go to all applications. You can scroll all the way down there in alphabetical order and just restart the welcome screen here. Usually though, once you go through here once, you don't really need to go through again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and pick my desktop colors. I actually like the old school Linux Mint setup. So instead of Mint Y, I do L for Legacy. And I still want the mixed colors, but I want Aqua for my icons. And what that does is it changes these icons here. Along with the theme along the side. So like if I were to choose different colors, it changes to whatever I want here. I prefer the aqua. And we're done with our themes. Now if you have an NVIDIA card, we're going to install your drivers next, which is go into Driver Manager. If you have an AMD or an Intel, this will come up with this right here. No drivers are needed. That's because both AMD and Intel are open source drivers and they are already built into the kernel. You do not have to worry about them. Only NVIDIA and other proprietary software is required. This does bring up a little bit of a pet peeve. I have seen this before where people are like, I use Linux Mint because of the driver manager, or I would love to use LMDE, which is Linux Mint Debian edition, but it doesn't have a driver manager. Okay, that's fine. However, the only thing this driver manager is really going to look for is proprietary drivers. If you don't have any, it's a moot case. And in most cases, the only proprietary driver you need is the graphics driver. And to install NVIDIA on LMDE, it's a single command. It's sudo apt install NVIDIA-drivers, hit enter. It's a single command. So don't let the lack of a driver manager stop you from exploring other options is basically where I'm going with that. And that's going to be the end of that rant. Okay, so also what you can do is set up some snapshots, which I don't need. Multimedia codecs, we're not worried about. We are going to do the update manager. We're going to do that here in just a second because there's an icon for it already here in the tray. You can do the firewall, that kind of thing. Once you're done, close it, and you normally don't have to open it again. This little clipboard here, I'm going to go through this real quick. Okay, install multimedia codecs. I do that one at a time. I'm not going to pull them all in. So I'm going to ignore. And the same thing for the restore utility. I'm not interested in time shift. I keep all of my data backed up to my server here at the house in my home lab. So if this just goes sideways, I just reinstall, re-import the data, and I'm done. Alright, so we're going to click the shield, and we're going to want to click OK. And this is the first update after installation. This is an important step to do. I'm going to choose no as far as switching to a local mirror. I prefer to stay on Linux Mint's official default mirrors. And we're going to put in our password. Alright, and we're going to let that install. I'm going to pause the video while it's installing. Okay, so now that step's done, there's a couple things I'm going to do before I reboot. I'm going to click on Edit, then go to Preferences. In here, I'm going to put a check mark in these top two boxes. What that's going to do is it hides the update manager after applying updates, which is this shield down here. and it also only shows it if there are updates or in case of errors. So basically, my default mode is without the shield, and if I were to happen to notice the shield, that tells me, oh, I have updates that are available. I'm also going to go over here to automation, and I'm going to do this bottom slider here for automatic maintenance. To put in our password. And as it says, what it does is it removes obsolete kernels and dependencies. So basically what will happen is as we go along, you're going to do update after update after update after update. And instead of having, 5, 10, 20 different kernel versions in there, it's only going to keep like the last 3 or 2. It'll automatically remove the old stuff. So we do that there. Now we're going to go ahead and close and reboot. While this is rebooting, I will go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so now that it's rebooted, I did go back to the grub menu and I did make sure that Windows was still there, which it was. So we'll go ahead and put our password in. And we are fully upgraded. Installed, upgraded, dual booting Windows Mint. I'm sorry, Windows 11. Wow, Windows Mint. Sure. Okay, Windows 11 and Linux Mint. Actually, what version was this? I think this is 22. Didn't even notice. There's another way you can install the multimedia codecs right there. Where is that system information? Yeah, it's Linux Mint 22. I do apologize for not saying that up front. I will put that in the title of the video. Anyway, if you do like these videos, make sure you like, subscribe, smash that thumbs up. In the comment section, what I would like, if you don't mind, is to tell me your experiences. Have you tried dual booting? What are your thoughts on dual booting? Has it been easy for you? What roadblocks did you overcome? That sort of thing. And let's open a dialogue and have a discussion about that. Anyway, see you in the next video.